at Ease, where we put you at ease about all your children's health needs. Today, we'll be speaking about starting your child on solid food after the age of 6 months. My name is Dr. Sandra and I'm a pediatrician. Thank you so much to all our subscribers. Thank you for those who have watched the previous videos on growth. This video will be the third installment in our series on growth, how to grow a child properly. So if you haven't watched the other two videos, I would encourage you to just check on the links in the description below. And please watch those videos and get some information about what is the best thing to do for your child to grow. So, on to our topic for today. Now, if I keep looking down, it's because I'm looking at my notes. So, excuse me if I have to just look down a little bit to check through all the information I've gathered for everyone. And I thank you again for joining me today. I'm going to be using a bit of medical jargon, and I'm going to be using the word gut. So the gut, when I say the gut, it means the whole intestine. So we have your mouth, food pipe, which we call the esophagus, and then the small intestine in the middle of the abdomen, and then the large intestine that runs on the sides, including obviously the stomach, which is the first place where the food goes. So if I say gut, I mean the intestine and everything that is involved with the digestion of food. Now, so the gut can take food from about 4 months of age. The World Health Organization says that we should start food at 6 months of age, and pediatricians around the world go by this guideline, and I think it is a very good guideline based on a lot of research. So, just so that you know, below the age of 4 months, it's completely useless to give a baby solid food. The baby cannot actually digest that food. The baby cannot use that food for anything. So then that baby can end up being what we call malnourished, because the space that was taken up by the food would have been taken up by milk, and the baby can only digest milk. So below the age of 4 months, definitely no. Now, from 4 to 6 months, there are some children who are able to take food and the body would be able to digest it. However, most children are not really ready at 4 months. So I go by the World Health Organization guideline, but at least even if the child is a little bit close to 6 months, that would be safer. So if a child is 2 months old and people are telling you, no, put some porridge in the bottle so that the baby can sleep, it's not going to work. It can actually cause a lot of problems in the baby. So less than 4 months, definite no. Between 4 and 6 months, some children, so it would be better that you actually check first with your doctor. How do you know when a child is ready? The child will actually show you. It will be very clear when the child is really ready to eat solids. So I go by the guidelines that if the child can hold themselves upright, if they are able to sit, even if it's with support, but they're able to sit up and like even grab food, and the child must be interested in food. And then you'd ask, doctor, how do I know my child is interested? You will not miss this. The child who wants to eat food looks at the table, looks at the food, looks at everything, is extremely interested when you're chewing, really looks at the plate when you take your spoon or your fork to your mouth. The baby really wants to eat that food. Then you know, okay, this child is actually ready to start eating. And earlier than that, obviously the baby might be able to take food into the mouth but might not actually want to chew it or want to actually taste it. So if you start and the baby is really not interested in the food, give it a while and then start again if the baby is already 6 months. If the baby is younger than 6 months, then just rather wait for the right time. Better to start with carbohydrates and vegetables and fruit. What do I mean when I say carbohydrates? I mean when people say carbs, I mean foods like rice, foods like potatoes, foods like maize, and then there are some which fall into like a middle category like pumpkin, butternut, sweet potato, that provide us with carbohydrates but also have a lot of vitamins and minerals and a lot of fiber. It's easier to start with this since the baby is taking the majority of their food, or rather their nutrition is being given through the milk. So at 6 months, don't reduce the milk, rather add the food. So we start with just one type of food. So you start with one. So let's say today you decide, okay, I'm going to try rice. It's nice to start with rice or maize, the really plain foods with no salt and anything, just to get the child interested in eating. So you start with about 2 to 3 teaspoons and just start with one food a day. So if you've decided, okay, this is a Monday and today you started with rice, then just start with rice maybe today, tomorrow, and Tuesday. We started on Monday. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, start with only that food. Just to make sure this is a safe way of getting to know, does the child like the food? Does the child want to try different types of ways in which you prepare the food? And is the child possibly allergic to the food? So if you've already mixed too many foods, it's difficult to know which one would be the culprit. So start with one. So if you start with rice, maybe Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, about 3 days is enough to know, okay, the child is not having any reaction. And then maybe Thursday, Friday, Saturday, you can add potato. And then Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, you can try maybe sweet potato, and then so on and so forth. And when you have an idea as to what the child actually is liking, then you can start mixing the food. So maybe you started with rice and potato and maize last week, then this week you can add some beans, just a small amount of beans, literally 2 or 3 beans smashed and made very soft. And always make the food as soft as possible when you start with the food, when we start with feeding, to help with the baby digest, because the baby has gone only from milk. You can't go to the baby chewing, and usually these babies don't have any teeth anyway. So you have to start it with it liquidized. So you can use a hand mixer, hand liquidizer, or just cook it very to make it extremely soft, and then you can mash it with a fork. That's also enough. Whatever way you can do to make the food soft. So then you can mix. Say, okay, the baby already ate some rice, then you can say, okay, now and the baby liked some beans, then you can say, okay, let's mix some rice and some beans and then give the baby. Now also try to experiment with texture. Some babies like very dry, crunchy food. Some babies like very soupy food. So just start. So some babies may like some smashed rice with very, very, very little water to just give it a bit of softness. But some babies like it when you put a lot of water in it, so that or milk. Mixing it with milk would be a good idea as well. And just see, because babies are different. Babies like different textures, babies like different temperatures. Some babies prefer room temperature food, some babies prefer cold food. I know this is very difficult for Africans and Asians to accept, that a baby would like very cold food, cold fridge food. Yeah, some babies like really cold food, but try to not make it too cold. And some babies like really warm food and will not eat the food unless you warm the food. So in general, it's better to start with warmer food and then just see whether the baby likes it a bit cooler, rather than starting with cooler food. And rather cooler food in a baby who's a bit older, maybe like a 7-8 month old baby, maybe 10-month-old baby. So the best thing to do after you've added your carbohydrates and vegetables is to start adding the protein. If your family eats meat, then this is the time to add mincemeat, chicken livers, and don't forget to add in the protein containing vegetables like I spoke before, like beans and peas and nuts. Now, nuts are controversial because of the fact that they may cause allergies in some children. If you have a family history of allergy, it doesn't necessarily mean that this baby will have an allergy. So the earlier you introduce foods that are associated with allergy, the better, in order to just see whether this child will react to it. So just do it one at a time and then notice. So don't be afraid of adding nuts or fish or eggs to the diet in order to actually check. And If you see that there's a reaction, maybe with the skin, with a rash forming or tingling, then stop and make sure you take that out of the diet. And then you notice that at your next pediatrician's checkup, that you say, no, we tried nuts and we saw a reaction, or we tried fish and we saw a reaction, or we tried we tried eggs and we saw a reaction. But just start these foods in order to actually check. There are some precautions that you can get, and I'll link some of those precautions in the description below. Now, so we've started with about 2 to 3 teaspoons about twice a day. Just see how the baby goes. And then around 7 to 8 months of age, the baby may need 3 meals a day, and that would include snacks, which would be 2 extra meals. So around 9 to 10 months, the baby should be eating about 5 small meals a day, which would be about that much, which is about half a cup of food at each meal. But the baby will show you. So continue with a full complement of milk. Remember not to stop the milk. The baby will show you. The baby themselves will start reducing how many bottles they take during the day if they're formula feeding, or reduce the number of times that they breastfeed. But it's important, don't reduce the milk, just add the food, because the baby is growing, and the baby will show you and will start reducing their own milk as you start increasing the food. And you just make sure the food is of a high quality and high nutrition. Now, with all the tips I've given you in starting the solid foods in young babies, I'd like to just give you some tips to make this much easier and much more pleasant for the child. So, things to do. As I said, mash the food or blend the food. Don't be afraid to make it as soft as possible. If the baby wants it a bit hard, rather reduce the amount of fluid you use to mash the food or blend the food, but make it as soft as possible. And try to cook and bake the food yourself. Try to not get these already pre-made foods unless you really can read the ingredients and see. And I'll talk about that a bit later just now as well. And also, don't be afraid to add spice. Now, when I speak of spice, I'm not speaking about spice mixes. I'm not speaking about the ones that have been mixed with a whole lot of salt and a whole lot of other things that you don't understand. I'm talking about pure spices. So I'm saying pure ginger, like ginger that you can see, this is ginger powder or cinnamon powder or turmeric powder or cumin seeds or coriander or dhania powder. Those kind of plain pure spices, babies actually really like those spices. Don't be scared of putting some of these spices in the food, because some babies don't like bland food, which sounds so hilarious. Some babies like you to fry the food a little bit and put a bit of spice and then blend it, and then they'll eat it. But if it's too plain, they may not like it. But I'll tell you more about the seasoning just shortly. Don't add salt. Less than 1 year of age, actually even less than 3 years of age, the baby's kidneys, which are located at the back of your body here, the kidneys are responsible to filter your blood and to filter your blood of a lot of impurities. Now, when you add a lot of salt, it causes problems in how the body actually filters fluid. So when we're just starting to feed the baby, avoid salt. If you can put no salt and rather use the pure spices, or use lemon juice to season the food, that would be better, or put extremely little salt. But I'd rather no salt and no kind of extremely processed things with lots of colorants and things like that. Rather stay away. And watch out for what people call kids foods. A lot of things marketed as kids foods have so much colorant, so much sugar, so much chemicals that you actually don't understand. So I'd like to warn you and give you this caution as a parent. If you read those ingredients and you also don't know what they mean, don't give this to your baby who's less than 2 years old. Don't give them food which you don't understand. If you look at the ingredients and you're like, but what is this? It's actually not good for the baby. And it will be marketed as kids' food. So not all the marketing companies are ethical. And it's difficult to know who are ethical, who are not. All I'm saying, if you understand the ingredients, then maybe you can give it to the child, but double check. But I'm saying, when you've just started giving food to a baby, stay away from these processed foods and things that you don't understand. Give them plain things that you know exactly what you put in that food, and things where it's just where they say just pure fruit or pure this, where you can actually understand the ingredients. So be careful about that. So also, don't give 100% fruit juice. 100% fruit juice seems that it would be a good thing, right? But I also had to learn later when I sat with my dietitian friends, and they said no, 100% fruit juice is very, very concentrated, because it's like if you have a bottle of 100% orange juice, that's like 15 oranges squeezed into there. You'd likely not eat 15 oranges in a day. You'd likely only eat one or two. So if you want to give fruit juice and you're buying it in the shop, if it's 100% fruit juice, dilute it half and half, or even 1/3 of fruit juice and the rest water. That's what's safe for a child. Actually, what's safe for most people. Drinking it straight is actually not safe for the child. It's actually a little bit too much, and too much of a good thing can be a bad thing, and in this case it actually is. So be careful about that. The other thing what I want to tell you is this is from a pediatrician's point of view, and people may argue with me, but I'm just telling you what I've seen as a doctor. So each person, you can do what you want, but I'm telling you what works. Don't give a small baby leftover food. If you make the food, feed it now, but don't store it away to give it again later. If you want to store it, make it fresh and freeze it, and then take the frozen food and thaw it and give it immediately. If it lasts to the next meal, don't give it. I'm just telling you, as someone who has seen children in and out of hospital, there are lots of kids who've eaten leftovers and they've been fine. But there are also stories of people who climbed a tree and gave birth in a tree and they were fine. It doesn't mean we go and give birth in a tree. Don't put yourself in danger. Don't put your child in danger just because you heard that someone else's kid has been eating leftovers for the whole of his life and that kid is fine. There are lots of people doing things that are not recommended and they're fine. So from my side, as a pediatrician, rather not give your young baby leftover food. Make it fresh each time, and whatever food is left over, usually actually mothers of young babies and toddlers will tell you that the mom and the dad usually finish off that food. That's what we end up doing. We don't give it to anyone else, or if you find that you can't throw it away, but try to make small portions and don't give leftover food. Some babies become constipated after starting solids. So if you find that you've started solids and the baby ate too much, rather give a break. Give a break of a couple of days where the baby just drinks milk, and then start again with smaller portions, and then maybe add a lot more fluid in the portions of food. Use some soup, some bone broth, use some milk to mix the food, but just notice that it can be a problem, and it might be a sign that the baby might want to eat but the gut is still not yet ready. So just go really slow. It's okay to go slowly when you're weaning, but try not to only start the food much later. So also, make sure you add a lot of high fiber foods in a baby. If you notice that the baby is starting to get constipated as you started solids, these are the high fiber foods I want you to add. I want you to add some spinach. I want you to add some cabbage. I want you to add African spinach, which where I live they call it morojo. They also call it in East Africa, in Uganda, they call it dodo. Dodo is different than the Nigerian plantain dodo. It's not the same. Same word, but different food. So then I want you to add some pawpaw. I want you to add some mango. Those kind of foods really help in preventing constipation. And also, if a baby is sick, the first thing they do is that they stop eating food, and that's fine. Do not be too worried if a baby isn't eating solid food while they're feeling unwell, and if they want to drink a lot of milk, allow them to drink milk for those couple of days that they're not feeling well. They will go back to eating, and our recommendation is that you just give them 1.5 times more of the food at each meal, and just keep offering them a bit more. Usually their appetite comes back and they eat a lot and they gain their weight back. The other thing is that you can add some water from about 7 months of age. You can add some boiled cooled water. As you know, I love boiled cooled water, not any other type of prepared water, not tap water. Baby less than 1 year, boil and cool that water. Make sure that water is clean, because the baby's immune system is not yet that strong, so you have to protect the baby at all costs. And so about 30 to 50 mils, which is a very small amount, about a quarter cup of water at a time. Make sure that that water doesn't replace a bottle of milk, because the main nutrition still needs to be milk as you add the nutritious foods as well. So you can add some water, and water would be good for the baby. If the baby wants to drink more, that's fine, as long as they're not replacing milk with the water that they're drinking. Some people ask me if rooibos tea is safe. It's not bad, but not as a replacement for milk. So rooibos tea or red bush tea can be drank by babies, but also try not to add sugar, with just a very, very small amount, and let it be just a tiny amount during the day, not replacing milk. And full cream milk can be given after the age of 1 year. So below the age of a year, don't give full cream milk. The baby is not able to digest that thing. The baby can only drink, that's why we have formula. So below the age of 1 year, stay away from giving whole milk, only after the age of a year. And that's it. I hope you found that video valuable. I hope that it's helpful. I hope that it helps your journey in giving the baby solid foods much easier. Please go to my website in order to download the downloadable PDF for a meal plan for a baby, and yeah, enjoy. Please don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to like, don't forget to share this video, and join us in the next video. Thank you so much.